Days of Our Lives DOOL spoilers for the week of November 30–December 4 tease that some heated confrontations are coming up. First, Gabby Hernandez de Mira, Camila Banus, will unleash her wrath over Jake Lambert, Brandon Barish, and Kate Roberts, Lauren Koslow, hooking up. Primus player placeholder. After finding the pair in bed, Gabby will rip into Jake for moving on so quickly, and with Kate of all people. Of course, Jake won't see why Gabby should care since she dumped him, or at least denied them the chance of seeing what they could be. Gabby will rant about how she lied and will explain why, so Jake will have a lot to wrap his head around. Although Jake has found a new spark with Kate, it should be tough to resist his old one with Gabby. Ray Fernandez, Galen Gearing, will have to find a way to carry on without Hope Brady, Christian Alfonso, so he'll face a difficult task of his own. As for Sean Brady, Brandon Beamer, he'll receive an intriguing job offer courtesy of Abe Carver, James Reynolds. Next, Xander Kiriakis, Paul Telfer, will head to Statesville on a mission to figure out who Philip Kiriakis, J. Kenneth Johnson, has been working with, and he'll suspect Kristen DeMira, Stacey Haydock, can tell him the answer. While Xander forces Kristen to endure a grilling session, Charlie Dale, Mike Manning, will put Clara Brady, Isabel Durant, through the same thing. Charlie will have plenty of questions about Claire's bond with Ben Weston, Robert Scott Wilson. Days of Our Lives spoilers say Charlie's jealousy will be on full display, but Claire will downplay Ben as any kind of romantic threat. Sarah Horton, Lindsay Godfrey, will encourage Philip to divulge details of what he was up to before he returned to Salem. However, Philip will keep his walls up and lead Sarah to a surprising conclusion: she has to break up with Xander. It sounds like Sarah will pitch the idea of a fake split to Xander in hopes that it'll convince Philip to drop his guard. Charlie will eventually get stuck in a major Titan war, so let's talk about his tight spot. DOOL fans know Xander filled Charlie in on some of his suspicions about Philip and expects loyalty in return. Philip could easily get angry if he feels like Xander's turning Charlie against him. He surely won't like the idea of Xander using Charlie as a pawn, so Charlie's internship could be in jeopardy. However, this Titan battle may be more about Xander than Charlie at this point. The problem is Charlie has two bosses who hate each other's guts. In an effort to keep the peace, Charlie could tick both of them off, or perhaps convince them to cool down depending on how things play out. Meanwhile, Kayla Brady, Mary Beth Evans, will have yet another argument with Steve Johnson, Stephen Nichols. As Days fans might expect, Steve and Kayla will be fighting over Trip Dalton, Lucas Adams, again. Since Kayla will still think Trip is guilty, she'll be frustrated with Steve for refusing to accept the proof. Steve will stand by his son, so he should be upset when Kayla insists that Trip needs to move out of their apartment. As for Allie Horton, Lindsay Arnold, she'll get some troubling news. That could involve an issue that prevents her from pursuing justice in London. Whatever the case, Allie will take matters into her own hands soon by finding a gun and pointing it straight at Trip. Allie will be determined to make Trip confess what he did to her, but Trip will likely stand by his claims of innocence, even when faced with Allie's potential bullet. Over with Bonnie Lockhart, Juddy Evans, and Jennifer Devereaux, Katie McLean, they'll find themselves some dates and try to make the men in their lives jealous. Bonnie will hope she can convince Justin Kiriakis, Wally Kurth, to make a move, so her goal will be a bit different than Jennifer's. Jack Devereaux, Matthew Ashford, hurt Jennifer deeply by cheating with Kate while Jen was in a coma. Now that Jennifer knows all about the betrayal, she'll be looking for a little payback. Jack and Justin will watch the ladies at Julie's place from afar, so Jennifer and Bonnie should see that their joint plan is working. Back with Philip, he'll make a surprising discovery that puts Sarah on the spot. Sarah will have to explain once she gets busted for snooping. Other Days of Our Lives spoilers say Chloe Lane, Nadia Bjorlin, will finally make her way back to Salem, so look for Brady Black, Eric Martsolf, to spend some time catching up with her. DOOL fans will also see Eli Grant La Monarchy barging on Lonnie Pricegrant's Sal Store's prenatal appointment, no doubt hoping he can earn Lonnie's forgiveness and win his wife back. Across town, Days of Our Lives spoilers say Belle Black, Martha Madison, will have an important meeting with John Black, Drake Hutchison. John will be in some serious hot water thanks to his attack on Jan Spears, Heather Lindell, so Belle will have to discuss the legal battle her father is now facing. Finally, Tripp will get some shocking updates before the week's over. Day spoilers say Tripp will learn Ava Vitale, Tamara Braun, survived, so he'll be blown away when he realizes his mother is alive and well. At Statesville, Kristen received a visit from Lonnie, who soon began complaining about what Eli had done. "The last thing I want is for you to be angry with Eli," Kristen stressed. "Too late, I already kicked him out of the apartment," Lonnie admitted. "He was in an impossible situation," Kristen reasoned. "While Eli was pressuring you to confess, I was talking to Trask, and I was getting through to her. So, the bottom line is that if Eli hadn't decided to just go about this completely on his own, if he would have trusted me and respected me and been honest with me, you wouldn't be here right now," Lonnie countered. "What ifs, we can talk about them forever and ever, but the real bottom line is, I stabbed Victor, and now I'm paying the price, but I do not want you to pay, too. Look, Eli loves you more than anything in this world, and he was just protecting you and your family and your future. If I can understand that, why can't you?" Kristen argued. "I do understand that. But he lied to me, and if I wouldn't have found him and my father with their heads together, he would have kept lying to me forever. And, you know, after he went behind my back to arrest you, he and I agreed no more secrets, and now this comes out, so, I mean, how am I supposed to ever trust him again?" Lonnie reasoned. "Forgive him, that's all you have to do," Kristen suggested. "Like it's that simple," Lonnie grumbled. "Do you know what I would give to be with my family right now? And you can have that in an instant. Look, I went to prison so that you wouldn't have to. I did it for you and Eli and those beautiful babies that you are about to bring into this world, and the only thing that is worse than being stuck in this hellhole is knowing that I did it for nothing. So, I am begging you, don't let my sacrifice be in vain. Work things out with Eli, please," Kristen snapped. "I want to. But I don't know if I can," Lonnie admitted, fighting back tears. Kristen released a groan of frustration, prompting Lonnie to offer an apologetic shrug. Eli and Abe went to Julie's place to cancel Lonnie's baby shower, and Julie was quick to side with Lonnie, not Eli, after hearing the reason for the cancellation. "I know you were trying to protect your wife, but marriage is a partnership. You do not run around making unilateral decisions." Julie stressed. And Eli conceded the point after recovering from the shock of the reaction. Julie soon started trying to think of ways to help Eli reconcile with Lonnie and ultimately decided that the first order of business was for Abe to stop providing Eli with a place to stay. "You are facilitating the separation of Lonnie and Eli, so send him packing. And then make sure Lonnie is the first person who hears about it. I'm sure she won't want to see the father of her babies out on the street. Any more than I want to see my great-grandbabies born into a broken home," Julie explained to Abe. "I would love to stay and listen to more of your creative ideas. But, I gotta get back to the station," Eli informed Julie before rushing off. Julie remained determined to give Lonnie a baby shower but reluctantly agreed to take Abe's advice about removing Eli from the guest list, at least for the time being. "I know my daughter, she's very stubborn," Abe reasoned. "Gee, I wonder where she gets that," Julie countered. Changing the subject, Julie started admonishing Abe for having supported Eli's deception and for having refused to fire Trask when Lonnie had requested the intervention, since the whole mess could have been prevented if not for that fateful decision. "I can tell you one thing, when my Doug was mayor of this town, we never would have," Julie began. "Enough. I have been beating myself up plenty already, so there's no need to pile on," Abe stressed. "Understood. Then let's just do something to get those crazy kids back together again," Julie replied. At the Evans Black townhouse, Jan did a quick twirl to show off Belle's wedding dress, getting a peek at each of the stunned onlookers in the process. "What's the matter? Were you expecting someone else?" Jan asked the group with a smirk. Sean and John simultaneously demanded to know what Jan had done to Belle. "Belle, Belle, Belle, everything's always about Belle," Jan grumbled. "Your precious Belle is fine. But she won't be for long if you don't behave," Jan stressed. Jan suddenly noticed that Brady was trying to discreetly dial a phone number. "Make that call, and your sister is a dead woman," Jan warned Brady before grabbing a nearby basket and proceeding to confiscate each wedding guest's cell phone. "Sorry, I really must insist. A wedding should be a phone-free zone," Jan reasoned with a smile. "Don't you agree, Dr. Evans? I know you're a stickler for etiquette," Jan continued. "Yes, I am," Marlena confirmed, returning the smile. "Why are we giving in to her crazy demands?" John quietly asked Marlena while only Sean was within earshot. "Because she is mentally unbalanced, and we don't know what she's done to Belle, so all we can do now to keep Belle safe is just, play along," Marlena replied in an equally hushed tone. "But, you see, we don't even know if Belle is safe now," John pointed out, purposely speaking most of the words loudly enough for Jan to hear them. "I need to know my mom is okay," Clara begged Jan, following John's lead. "We're not gonna take your word for it," Brady warned Jan, joining the chorus. "All right already, if I show you proof that Belle is fine, will you all just shut up about her?" Jan snapped before showing the group a digital image of Belle that had been left open on Jan's cell phone in anticipation of the request. "As you can see, Belle is alive and well, just a little tied up at the moment," Jan summarized. "Now, can we get on with the ceremony already? I am finally gonna be Mrs. Sean Douglas Brady today. Because, you see, you and I are getting hitched right here. Right now, Sean. Or else all of you will be singing the wedding bell blues," Jan continued. "I wouldn't marry you if I had a gun pointed at my head," Sean insisted. "Sean, sweetie, I couldn't point my gun at your head. Because it happens to be trained on Belle as we speak," Jan countered with a shrug and a smile. "So, you don't have a gun on your person right now," Marlena pointedly translated. "I couldn't bring it with me, obvi it didn't go with my dress," Jan playfully confirmed, seemingly oblivious to the silver lining that Marlena had found in the revelation. but I left it with a trusted friend. So let me be very clear: if anyone attempts to leave this room, or tries to call for help, or does anything whatsoever to get in the way of my perfect wedding, it'll be Belle's funeral. Jan stressed with a scowl. Claire tried to reason with Jan, arguing that they were supposed to be friends. We are friends. You're the very best friend that I have. Way better than that user Nicole Walker, who talked me into trying to murder your pop, Jan assured Claire, who didn't seem to find the reminder of that incident particularly comforting. I am overjoyed that you're gonna be my maid of honor, Jan added. Thank you, that truly means a lot to me, but the thing is, I'm worried about my mom, Claire tried to reply, fighting back tears. How many times do I have to say it? She's fine, Jan snapped. But where is she? Claire wondered. Claire, I thought I could at least count on you to be happy for me, Jan grumbled. Jan, of course I, want you to be happy, Claire managed to choke out after Marlena, who was standing behind Jan, silently advised that it would be best to play along for the time being. Good, because, well, you're the reason that I made it this far, you know. I mean, earlier, at the pub, you gave me some super useful info when you told me that your mom was getting ready at the Salem Inn, and that's how I was able to pay her a little visit. And now, here I am, Jan summarized. Oh, my God, that's why you insisted that I go and see Charlie? That's why you said I had to invite him to the wedding in person? You were trying to get rid of me, Claire realized. Well, yes. But, I mean, it worked out perfectly for both of us, right? Jan reasoned, shrugging shamelessly. Charlie silently processed the news, seemingly a bit hurt that the wedding invitation hadn't been Claire's idea. I get it now why my mom was so weird when I saw her at the Salem Inn. She was so nervous and uptight, and she wouldn't even let me in the room, and that's because you were in there with her. Right? Claire further realized. With a gun to her back, Jan confirmed. But, Jan, you told me that you weren't interested in my dad anymore, and that you understood that my dad and my mom were meant to be together, Claire pointed out. I know that's what I said. And I am so sorry, Claire, there's no good way to put it, but I lied, Jan explained with another shameless shrug. I'll never accept that your parents belong together. Sean is mine now and forever, Jan summarized for Claire, who sighed and walked away with a shake of the head, giving Marlena an opportunity to jump in. As the officiant, it's my job to make sure that the bride has everything she dreamed of, so I thought we could take a moment to talk privately about the ceremony, Marlena suggested to Jan, who nodded in agreement. To be honest, Dr. Evans, my day is already somewhat less than perfect. For starters, I never would have picked this dress, and the crowd is a little thin. And I really had my heart set on a destination wedding, but I suppose the most important thing is that I'm marrying Sean, Jan declared. Sean, John, and Brady watched from afar as Marlena's conversation with Jan continued. God, I really hope that Marlena can get through to Jan and let that lunatic know there's no way in hell that I would ever marry her, Sean whispered. Actually, Sean, you will, John insisted in an equally hushed tone. You want me to marry Jan? Sean incredulously repeated. Doc's trying to get through to her, but let's not be naive. Nobody is gonna talk Jan Spears out of fulfilling a fantasy she has obsessed about for 2 decades. Look, the only way we're gonna keep Belle safe is to placate Jan, so I'm afraid, my boy, you're gonna have to go through with this ceremony. But don't worry, because everybody knows this wedding isn't real. Obviously, it's not legal, and it doesn't mean anything. What we're doing is a stall tactic. We just need a little bit of time to rescue Belle and make sure she's safe. And then we'll throw Jan in jail and have ourselves a real wedding, John explained. I'll do anything to save Belle, Sean conceded. Jen continued talking to Marlena, oblivious to the details of Sean's conversation with John. "Jen, you're a smart girl. You know that Sean was planning to marry Belle today." "Because Sean loves Belle," Marlena tried to protest. "No, he just thinks he loves her." "But she has treated him so badly. I mean, how many times has she cheated on that perfect specimen of manliness?" "I would never do that. I would never take Sean for granted. I will honor him and treasure him and show him what true love means," Jan countered. "Jan, I don't think you've thought this thing through. I mean, say you marry Sean, then what?" Marlena argued. "We eat cake. And then I take my husband to bed, of course. And then we go on a fabulous honeymoon and live happily ever after," Jan summarized with a smile and a shrug. "Now, don't try to shrink me, Dr. Evans, because it's not going to work," Jan added. "Duly noted," Marlena replied. Meanwhile, Charlie tried to comfort Claire, who felt guilty for having ignored Belle and Sean's repeated warnings about Jan's true nature. "I stupidly believed that we were bonding over being," Claire began to explain before stopping abruptly. "Former, mental patients?" Charlie carefully concluded for Claire. "You know," Claire realized. "Xander told me," Charlie clarified. "And I told him that I would never judge you for getting help. And besides, it's obvious that you're better," Charlie added with a hint of uncertainty. "I thought that Jan was better, too. But, clearly, I was wrong," Claire admitted. Jan suddenly called out to Sean. "Ready to tie that knot?" Jan asked in a sing-song voice. "Ready as I'll ever be," Sean replied with a forced smile. "Claire, I'm gonna be the best stepmother ever. After all, we're already best friends, right?" Jan said as Claire reluctantly joined the ceremony as the maid of honor. "Yes, best friends," Claire agreed after Sean, who was standing behind Jan, silently advised that it would be best to play along for the time being. Marlena soon started the ceremony, and when it reached the point where objections to the union of the bride and groom could be voiced, Jan warned everyone to stay silent. Marlena continued the ceremony and eventually got to the point where the bride and groom were supposed to exchange vows. "Jan, do you take?" Marlena began. "Actually, the name's Janet." "Jan is a nickname," Jan clarified. "Right," Marlena replied before forging ahead. Jan excitedly said "I do" when it was time to do so, but Sean's "I do" was uttered in a much more somber tone. Sean recoiled when Jan tried to seize a kiss, and Marlena helpfully pointed out that it wasn't time for that yet. "We haven't exchanged the rings yet," Jan realized. "My best man's got," Sean began to explain while looking around the living room, prompting Jan to take a good look at the crowd, as well. "Someone's missing," Jan observed. Brady, who had sneaked out of the townhouse at some point during the ceremony, ran into Eli while en route to the Salem Inn. Eli initially scoffed at the idea of helping Brady, of all people, but ultimately agreed to do so after realizing that a life was at stake. Eli followed Brady to Belle's hotel room, then drew a gun and kicked open the door, and the men gasped at what they saw on the other side of it.